I'm Mike from Happy Giant. We're a Massachusetts-based company. We've been in the AR space for a number of years. Suddenly I feel like I'm giving a TED Talk, which I swore I would never do. I can't see any of you. I'm going to apologize in advance because I am racing to a flight, so I'm going to talk fast. This is a very non-technical kind of overview of AR over the last few years, mainly in the consumer space. I'm not going to go way back in time to DARPA or anything like that. This is really sort of an intro to AR for people who aren't as familiar with it, and then we'll talk a little bit about what we've done in the space. So here's just some images of some stuff we've done in AR. Our main AR title is called HoloGrid Monster Battle, which there's some pictures of here. I'll talk about that in a minute. It's a game we did with Phil Tippett, who was famous for doing the HoloChess scene in Star Wars. I thought it was important to mention geolocation-based games because I think AR and GPS games get lumped together because of Pokemon Go, understandably, but they really are. They can be two distinct things, or they can be blended together. But GPS games we feel are going to be very important in the future, but they're also critical to have AR without GPS as well. For example, in China, GPS games are kind of a big no-no at this point. So something to navigate with games in the future, but incredible potential. Okay, so as I mentioned, we were Apple's Game of the Day recently. We've been mentioned in Wall Street Journal. We've been called the top AR gaming platform of the future, whatever that means. I don't know. And we've gotten a bunch of other accolades and awards. We've done a lot of client work over the years. There we go. Traditionally, we've been a first web and then mobile-based developer. When mobile got really crowded, I sort of read the tea leaves about 4 years ago, and we made the pivot to sort of just start to learn and get into augmented reality. And my background is I worked for George Lucas. There's me when I was very young and a little bit younger, now older. You can see generation of hair loss there. But in that time, we were doing a lot of R&D back then and sort of discovering the initial digital pipeline, really, of creation of tools and art for games and film. And so when I got back into AR, I was kind of going back to my roots, trying to sort of figure out what's coming next. I like bleeding edge stuff. So we are a gaming company traditionally, but underneath these games that we're building, we've been building a platform, which we're calling ARiA, Augmented Reality Immersive Experience Platform. So this has implications for games, but also can be applied, we feel, to many other industries and verticals. We'll talk about that briefly. So the first part of my talk here, and this is going to be a little bit of a contest and free-for-all here. If anyone wants a T-shirt, speak out. So what I'm going to do is just talk a little bit, because I feel like film and cinema, really put dreams in my head and a lot of other people's head in terms of what the future can be, what sci-fi can be. So I thought it was interesting, if you look back over the last few decades of cinema, you can see all these examples of AR, and pretty impressive how much it was thought through in some ways. So of course here, it's probably the first time I think any of us or I myself saw a hologram, right, or AR. Star Wars has been a huge part, as far as I'm concerned, in sort of putting ideas in our head about what AR can be. Of course, this is the famous HoloChess scene that Phil Tippett did. This was what our game was inspired by. We wanted to start with something that was a tabletop AR experience, board gaming kind of brought to the next level. And then, it's interesting how they use it for mapping as well, right? Pre-visualization. And in the future movies as well, continue to use it for more enhanced pre-visualization. Now, as I go through these next one, if you want a T-shirt, whoever calls out the name of the movie first can have it. Anybody? Thank you. I thought this was an interesting example because, you see these pictures here on the bottom of Magic Leap, sort of very similar to their early technology and how big and kind of gigantic sized it was. So this I thought was interesting too. You look at Terminator, how much is going on with the AR of the robot, right? He's got facial recognition, audio waveform. He's actually scanning the environment, doing depth perception and room scaling, compass. There's all kinds of stuff going on in there. So I thought that was really, when we think about modern AR and where it's going, we had a view of it in 1980 something. So for interface, right? UI, touchless interface, et cetera. Obviously, this gets referenced a lot. And it's interesting, because in a way, what's happening in AR now is harder than this, right? In this movie, he was always at a station, at a fixed place. What's happening with AR headsets is this is going to be able to happen wherever you are. So it's actually, the technology is going to surpass the science fiction here soon, we hope. Virtual assistant, right? Anyone know who played that character? Great. So, voice recognition, virtual assistants, machine learning, AI, et cetera. If you think about this whole scene, there's a lot going on in there. Pre-visualization, being able to control his machine, a virtual assistant as well, artificial intelligence, all kinds of things going on there. Right, and again, sort of like Star Wars, pre-visualization, being able to look at an area from 360 degrees with information, POIs, which is very big in AR, GPS, being able to detect certain points in the area. Okay. Now we're going to get to the real part. So this is now these are Mike Levine terms. Nothing you're going to see here is official. This is kind of our experience with AR since we got into it. So when we started, the state of the industry was marker-based AR, and really what we do is consumer-facing, so we're not dealing with super expensive machines. We're trying to build stuff that everyone can experience, the common man. And so when we first did HoloGrid, this marker-based AR was kind of the state of technology, and it had actually advanced quite a bit from where we could go beyond simple black and white QR codes to sophisticated image recognition. And that was kind of the original, along with teaming up with Phil Tippett, the way we created HoloGrid. Here's an example of kind of where we went with fiduciary markers to an actual illustration that can be the image marker. And so the first version of HoloGrid, you bought it on Amazon, you can still buy it, it's in a box, and you got these cards and you would play it with marker-based AR. I call this AR 1.0. And this obviously can be used in marketing, technology, retail, all kinds of different things to kind of bring the real world to life. So here's what I call AR 1.5. Cast AR, which unfortunately is no longer with us. Mira, Prism, which I love, hopefully will be with us for a while, came out of USC, and I think I've seen some others, but sort of what I call Google Cardboard AR headsets, low cost, usually reflective-based AR. Disney's Lenovo project I would put slightly ahead of this. I did not put that in my speech, though. They're using more sophisticated technology. And I didn't have the heart to call them 1.5, and I hope I don't upset anyone here, but I'm calling Meta 1.75, because it is slightly better, but it's nowhere near things like where we're going with HoloLens and Magic Leap. It's much more about putting images in front of you, overlaying them. There's no depth perception and sophisticated technology there yet, at least that I've heard of. And then they're not into games, so plus, we have very big, bulky headsets still in this iteration that really the mass public is not going to wear out on the street, in my opinion. And then we have what I'm going to call AR 2.0, right? Which is, I think, where a lot of the excitement is with mobile, but in the headset realm. And we see all these amazing images come out, mainly from Magic Leap, thank you, which sets the expectations and the bar incredibly high, probably to a point that we will not see for many, many years. So I have a little misgivings about those images Magic Leap continues to put out. More realistically, you have HoloLens, where, a real shipping product's been out for a few years now. We brought our game, HoloGrid, to HoloLens as well. HoloLens was really, in my opinion, the first real prosumer-based AR 2.0 device. And the images that they show off are much more, I think, realistic in terms of what you can use this for, minus some of the issues, which I'll talk about in a second, like depth of field, which they don't quite show you the limitations of here. And of course, gaming is, they like to show off gaming, but really this is an enterprise solution still, because it's not a consumer purchasable product yet at $3,000. And just recently, we have the Magic Leap reveal, which we've all been waiting to see. And now we see what it is, or do we? Because we're not sure, they're not very clear. This is going to be their dev kit, but we're not quite sure what their consumer product will be. It could look very different than this. They're just not being clear about what it is. These hopefully are going to be coming onto the market soon, and we're hoping to get our hands on them as well. And again, these images that Magic Leap has put out over the years, I think are dangerous to the space, because I think it's very important for Magic Leap to succeed for the AR space. If Magic Leap didn't succeed, I think it could have profound negative implications and set us back years. So this kind of stuff, we'll see. And then what I'll call AR 3.0, which is the AR cloud. Okay, this is, how many people in here have even heard the term AR cloud? Not many, wow. And this is kind of like all the buzz right now in Silicon Valley, and investors are all, kind of clamoring. But what I find when I talk to people about this is very few people understand what it is. And we're working with a few companies. One started in Boston, ARiA, and there's just a handful of others and ourselves who are sort of trying to figure out what this means. So to us, AR Cloud is kind of the missing piece of what's been missing with mobile. What it gives you, and I'm just defining it very loosely here, of persistence, right? Being able to place something in the real world and have it remain there and have other people see it and know where it is contextually and orientation-wide. And that means multiplayer, joined community experiences, GPS-aware, obviously, actually putting contextual GPS data through AR to look at the world through your camera and understand the world that way. That's really, I think, what the big excitement level is with mobile and headset and AR. And obviously social goes with that. And then you start to layer in things like computer vision, machine learning. That's where AR is kind of going. Right now, like with ARKit on our phones, ARKit can just look at a flat horizontal plane, and that's all it knows. And what I'm seeing is now companies like us and others are sort of building technology on top of that to make it better, stronger, more capable. And that's part of what the AR cloud is, and it's going to be kind of connected to that. So just very loosely, trying to define what is this AR 2.0, 3.0 feature set. So holograms, 3D computer graphic images overlaid into the real world. Cameras that see out of devices and headsets that have 3D world depth perception and detection. And we've seen devices like this for years, like with Kinect and Tango, et cetera. So it's kind of taking those to headsets and bringing down the form factor and the price so everyone can use them. Eye motion detection, gesture detection, totem detection. Totems are what Magic Leap calls sort of physical props, accessories that and I think these are going to be a big part of VR and AR going forward. I'm already starting to see businesses pop up that are specializing just in this, because once we get away from mobile AR and our hands are free, then we're going to want to do cool things with games and guns and racing wheels that will connect to AR devices. And of course, more enterprise devices as well. Gyroscopes, altimeters, accelerometers, internet-enabled, AR cloud, et cetera. The concerns or the things we have to overcome right now for AR 2.0 is field of view. This is obviously, if anyone has tried a HoloLens, that's the first thing everyone says when they put a HoloLens on is, wow, why can I only see this tiny window? And supposedly Magic Leaps is going to be bigger, but until we can really get that full spectrum of view, that's going to be something we have to overcome. Lighting is, again, all these pictures from Magic Leap out in the street with whales and jumping. AR is very dependent on lighting conditions, okay? So if you're in a darker room, certain lighting conditions, it's just not going to work as well. So that's another thing that's going to get better over time. Pixel and poly counts. This is something in gaming that we're obsessed with, and we want to know how many things we can get on the screen moving together at the same time. So it's one thing to show a beautiful whale jumping out of a gym, but how can I interact with that whale in real time and turn it into a gaming situation where it's reacting to me and my movement and those kind of things? It gets a little more complicated. GPS accuracy is a huge deal. It's pretty much understood if you talk to map boxes, Google Maps, et cetera, of the world, that we're sort of all waiting for that next level of GPS to come into phones for this to get really exciting. Because if you've done a lot of experimenting with GPS and AR, you understand it's kind of hit or miss depending on your GPS signal today, right? Buildings, even in city areas, obviously indoors, that's a whole other issue. We get beacons and things like that, but GPS is going to get better, and it's going to make these kind of experiences better. And lastly, a lack of an AR cloud infrastructure. It just doesn't exist today. So that's something we need, and it's coming. So real quickly about what we have done up to now and where we're going. So this is the game that we made with Phil Tippett. We started out as a Kickstarter. This was pre-Pokemon Go when we launched this. Here is Phil Tippett in his studio. He's a 2-time Academy Award-winning filmmaker, special effects creator, and he's amazing, learned a lot from him. And he kind of does everything old school. He actually sculpts and builds things with his hands. I know, crazy. So for this game, what we did was we actually used a process called photogrammetry. What that is a physical prop, and we used photogrammetry, which is a process where you take pictures of something and then can turn it into an actual 3D model. So we used that process with his characters, rigged them, animated them, and that's kind of how we first discovered we could make HoloGrid. And here's just a picture of the first game with the cards. There's just some more information and some of the awards we won over the years, Best in Show at PAX East, and we're at GDC, and I'm flying right now to Casual Connect because we're in the Indie Prize at a big game show out in Disneyland. And what was cool when we took it to ARKit, we took it to, we started out in Marker Base, we took it to Tango, we took it to Oculus, making it, I think, the first AR, VR cross-platform game out there. I mentioned we took it to HoloLens. Then ARKit was announced. And to us, that was like everything we'd been working up to at that point. This was a kind of a big line in the sand moment for AR. So we worked very hard to kind of reinvent the game, make it a free-to-play game, relaunch it, and we were just featured over Christmas by Apple as one of the first AR Game of the Days that they've given that distinction to. And as you can see here, what we were able to do with ARKit, which is cool, I personally love playing this way, is you can play it small like they did on Star Wars, like a board game, but now we can scale it up gigantically, so you can play it in your backyard, you can actually be in the game, which I find a very unique way to play games, which is one of the things that attracted me to AR in the first place, because it's like it really is a new paradigm, a new way to play games and experience entertainment and other things. And here's another large shot in my driveway. And just some of the other partnerships and wonderful things we've had said about us. So ARiA, what we're building now, what we have been building and really extending, and we are looking for investment, if those kind of people are out there, it's a cloud-based event-driven gamification platform. It's basically a tool that's going to let people make sort of smaller Pokemon Go type experiences, right? Because right now there's kind of Niantic, there's a few other companies trying to get at this. We're making a tool, the kind of tool that we would like, that's developed how developers want to develop things using Unity. Eventually, we'll bring it to other engines and have a server-side cloud base with it. And this will basically be targeted at multiple industries: gaming, tourism, hospitality, entertainment. But honestly, we feel eventually it'll apply to almost any. Here it talks just a little bit more about the capabilities of what we've been playing around with, being able to do with it. And one of the hardest things we're trying to do is sort of fuse the GPS and the AR data together to give you really accurate information when you're looking through your camera about where you are, whether you're playing a game, whether you're getting directions to a coffee shop. Really, the possibilities are endless. Again, this just shows a few more examples: real-time translations, AR navigation, points of interest. And this stuff is great for tourism and people traveling, because if you're in an unfamiliar place, it's much more natural to sort of look at the world around you, we feel, just looking at it through your camera, as opposed to looking down with your head at a 2D map and trying to understand where you are. And we're also really excited about things like the Freedom Trail and Paul Revere, and kind of turning the real world into Disney World, right? And giving people these kind of experiences where there's characters and you can have AR tour guides and real-time translations if you're in a foreign place. And this I'm revealing here really publicly for the first time today. This is our new AR game we've been working on. HoloGrid was really a port to ARKit. This was made from the ground up for ARKit. And what we're doing in here, we're calling it full body AR. And it's the first game I've seen do this, where as you play this game, you're basically the device is reacting to how the player moves. So the player can, if they dodge, the dragon dodges. If they duck, their dragon dodges. They move forward, he punches, etc. So it's all tied into your movement as you play the game. You can also play with taps and swipes if you're lazy like me. But to sort of run around and, again, have a unique type of gaming experience where you're actually getting physically involved with the game as you play it, we find very unique and fun as well. And that's it. Woo!